Hello, everybody. Welcome back here to the channel. I'm Sean Davis. We have a very fun edition of the show. We have Mock Draft 2.0. Wanted to get a mock draft out before the lottery, and I wanted to get a guest on for this one. So I had to get, this guy needs no introduction. You know him as Six Rings of Steel. He has a bunch of other great stuff as well. But my guy, Matt, welcome on to the show. Matt, thank you so much for hopping on with us. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, thanks for having you. Thanks for coming on with us, and really excited to do this one with you.
Yeah, no, so thanks for having me on, Sean. I'm excited. It's my first collab mock draft of the year, so I'm excited to see how this goes. Where I can't always set myself up with picks. It's going to be kind of unpredictable here, so I'm excited for this.
Yeah. Make sure you guys follow Matt on all of his social media platforms. If you haven't already, I'll make sure I include those in the description down below. But how this mock draft is going to work. So we already ran through a lottery simulator. It's kind of an unpredictable draft lottery simulator. Make sure I put the graphic here at this spot, Sean, where, we have the draft order. So me and Matt are going to go back and forth. So Matt's going to pick first. I'm going to pick second. Thought that way would be pretty fun to make sure we get a interesting perspective on how this draft could play out. And like Matt kind of said, we can't set up picks, which is definitely something we do when you do a mock draft by yourself. But Matt gets the unfortunate task of picking number 1 with the Charlotte Hornets because they don't need a big. And I feel like this draft, for the most part, is probably going to be Alex Sarr number 1. But Matt, are you going to go Sarr number 1? Where are we going with here?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned to you before this, would I end up going Holland 1 here just because it's a weird fit with Mark Williams, but I'm still going to ultimately go with Alex Sarr here just because also kind of looking back on Mark Williams, 43 games his rookie year, 19 games last year. He's had question marks with his health so far in his career, and you hope at the end of the day that Sarr, I don't think he'll come in year 1, can somewhat space the floor eventually, and what's going to be available right away on the defensive end of the floor. And in this draft, I think it's okay taking someone that's not going to be a borderline all-star like a Wembanyama with the number 1 overall pick. You're going to take someone that's going to develop. And I think either it's next to Mark Williams or eventually replaces Mark Williams. I think I'm going to go number 1, Sarr here to Charlotte. I still think he's the best player in this class. That's what you do here.
All right. So next up, we got the Portland Trailblazers here at pick 2. Again, pretty unpredictable draft simulator. This is a little bit too high for me to take Donovan Clingan, even though I do like Clingan. I think this is a bit too high. So I think personally, it's just take your pick between Cody Williams and Ron Holland, for me at least. And I'm going to go with the upside. I love Cody Williams. I actually gave Cody Williams a better grade, but I'm going to go Ron Holland here at 2. I'm going to go Ron Holland here at 2. Just a freak athlete who I honestly think is starting to get a little bit underrated throughout like some of the draft analysts in this draft class. Really good defender. I posted a clip on my Twitter page where it's just a really textbook defensive possession from Ron Holland where he's guarding at the point of attack, navigates the ball screen perfectly, ultimately helps get force a bad shot. Ron Holland is really fun, and that's the type of guy I want to pair next to Scoot Henderson in the long term. So I'm going to go Ron Holland at 2 for Portland.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I love the fit with Clingan, and I think Holland, this would be a perfect environment, him with a young point guard and Scoot, and even gets to learn behind, even if Jeremy Grant's on the roster, can only help him, I think, about going forward. So that leaves me on the clock here at Washington at 3, and there's still a bunch of names that I kind of like here. You mentioned Donovan Clingan. This team has 0 future centers basically on their roster going forward, unless it's Tristan Vukcevic going forward. But I don't know. I don't think that's going to be happening. I'm tempted to go Clingan here at 3 just because he's a pretty safe prospect. I don't really love the idea of adding another forward to this team if they don't plan on moving Kuzma, because you got Bilal, you got Denny. We'll see what happens with Kispert, and obviously Kuzma's there. So you could go your franchise point guard in Nikola Topic. You could kind of go your long-term center in Donovan Clingan. It's basically what Washington prefers here. And I'm actually going to go Topic. I have Topic higher on my board, and I think he's going to fit perfectly in the NBA modern style of play. He's big, he's physical. He could drive to the rim. His jumper actually, I think, looks pretty solid. I know his 3-point splits aren't great this year, but the free throws look good. I think he'll eventually translate. Great court vision, and I think will only help benefit the adjacent players there in Washington, as they're going to most likely be bad next year, and Topic can at least set everybody up to hopefully further everyone's development.
All right, so we got the Houston Rockets here for a really weird team. I've done some mock drafts solo that have been published just for fun, and I always hate drafting for the Rockets.
Right? It's what do they need?
They're such a weird team. This is too high. Maybe you could talk into getting a long-term backup for Sengun, but I think they like Steven Adams right now. And again, this is still like a pick or two too high for me to take Klingon. I think I would just go get my guard of the future, and I can't find him right now, but I love this pick. Go get me Reed Shepherd here for the Houston Rockets. I think, and the reason why I personally have him higher on my board than Rob Dillingham, I just think he's a more sure thing off ball, and not saying Rob Dillingham isn't a good off ball player, but the shooting efficiency is ridiculous for Reed Shepherd. I think he is a way better. I think he's an incredible facilitator, obviously. And I think pairing him in a backcourt long term with Jalen Green, and you have Armin Thompson on that team still. They're a really, really fun team. So I'm going to go Reed Shepherd here at 4.
Yeah, I love this pick here. I'm a huge fan of Shepherd as well. This is like my top 4 big board of the guys that we had go. And I think like for your reasoning too, for him over Dillingham, I think at times like when Dillingham has like his set possessions, I worry about his court vision sometimes in the half court. I worry about he wants the ball. He's going to go to the rim either way. And there's questions with the shot selection. But I think Shepherd is such like a beautiful complementary piece in this league and can only help like Jabari's development and Shangun's development. And I think has more upside as a defender. So I'm a huge fan of that pick. I just wanted to give you props to that one. Detroit here at 5. Man, this is a weird draft for them so far because obviously I don't really want to go Klingon. I still have a lot of stock in Jalen Duren. I don't think they would really work together on the floor, but it would be kind of fun. Dillingham, probably my best player available, but I just don't think, unless you're moving on from Ivy this offseason, that really makes sense. So I'm going to go Stephon Castle here. This team was one of the worst defensive teams in the league last year. And I know there's question marks with Castle shooting, and this team was not a good shooting team whatsoever. But I don't think it's really worth like reaching on a specific shooter. And like, if you wanted to go like Dalton Connect here, like I get it. Like he could space the floor for you a little bit, but they need defenders in this on this team if they want to just be somewhat respectable because they hit rock bottom last year. And I think Castle can help them from the get-go. And him and Thompson on the perimeter together defensively is really fun with Jalen Duren as the rim protector.
All right. I do want to say this. Detroit, I am curious that you went with Stephon Castle. Especially if the Detroit's right around that spot, I do think I've seen I think I'm mocked on Connect in a couple of mocks I've done privately, but I do understand the reasoning. I do think Dalton Connect could be viewed as a reach there at 5, but if you really wanted to go fit, that I could understand Dalton Connect at 5. But San Antonio here at 6. I think I'm just gonna take who's probably the best player available at a position of need. I'm just gonna go Rob Dillingham at 6 for San Antonio. I think Rob Dillingham's upside is completely going to depend on the situation he's drafted to. And what I mean by that is if Rob Dillingham goes to a spot like, I don't even know what's a good example, like Charlotte, for example, are really, really weird, but Charlotte's a team that already got picked. If he goes to Charlotte, I think you are more likely to get a Malik Monk X type player where, high level score off the bench, microwavable score, like literally just Malik Monk, where he can win you some games, but he's not really ever going to be your primary ball handler. And I think that's a really good floor. That's a really good floor. That is Malik Monk. I think if you draft him to a spot like San Antonio, you are more likely to get to his absolute floor where he just bottoms out. And I do think you see some more of his flaws, but I think you can really get to his ultimate upside being like a Tyrese Maxey type of player if you let him be your lead ball handler, which San Antonio would do in the long run. So I do like that pick a lot for the Spurs. The Spurs are back up because in this mock drive or lottery draft simulator, the Raptors get screwed and the Spurs have the 7th pick because the Raptors pick fell outside the top 6. So Matt, Spurs just drafted Rob Dillingham. What do you do here at 7?
Yeah, so this is kind of cool. We get to add 2 players to the Spurs. I'm going back and forth between 2 wings here. With Klingon still on the board, I mean, they could just try to upgrade maybe the Zach Collins spot long term. Obviously, you'd have to think if you could play alongside Wemby, but I'm going to go wing here. I'm debating between Cody Williams and Matas Buzelis, who I like a little bit more. These guys have so many question marks in their game. But I'm going to go actually Matas Buzelis here. I'd go back and forth on him if I actually like him as a prospect or not, like to warrant a top 10 pick on him. But given that this is like a pick that you got from Jakob Poeltl, it's like, why not maybe take a chance on it? And it's your second first rounder. And we already went point guard in Dillingham. So I'm going to go Buzelis here. I like his defensive upside. I wish he could play make a little bit more. Like I wish his court vision was a little bit better playing for the Ignite this year, but I'm kind of also going to throw a lot of like Ignite overall environment play out the window just because it was kind of like a mess of an environment this season. So I'm going to go Buzelis here. I think I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth on if I like him or Cody Williams more for this team. And honestly, like if Dalton Connect went here, if like, oh, man, I'm going to talk myself out of it. No, I'm going to stick with Buzelis. I'm going to stick with Buzelis here. Yeah, we're going to go Buzelis at 7. I'm just going to stick with it.
All right. So I think the happiest team in the NBA draft right now is Memphis. It's Donovan Clingan.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the most popular, selection in the draft out of every mock draft is Donovan Clingan to the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, first off, Memphis, I think isn't getting talked about enough in terms of how good the West is going to be next year. They get a top 8 pick, likely anyway, top 8 pick to add on to this roster. I think you're going to get a superstar back on that team. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane's still here, obviously. I think a blessing in disguise for the Grizzlies this year in the midst of all the chaos and struggles that they dealt with is that they really got to see what some of their younger wings could be, and a Vince Williams and a Gigi Jackson, who I did love last season. I kind of just overthought Gigi Jackson more than I probably should have last year. But I love that pickup a lot for Memphis. And yeah, Memphis, they're going to submit their draft envelope quicker than any team is going to all draft night.
Right. The amount of A+ draft grades if this pick ended up happening, like it would be unanimous across the board. So I'm going to go here. Utah at 9. They're able to keep their pick in the top 10. There's still some good wings on the board, but I'm actually going to opt for Isaiah Collier. I still think he's a borderline top 10 prospect in this draft. And I actually kind of like the idea of him in Utah specifically. I think Utah has a lot to figure out what they want to do with kind of their team construction going forward. Are they going to sign Lauri Markkanen into an extension this offseason? Who is their long-term, or who's even the starting center on opening night next year? Is it going to be John Collins? Is it going to be Walker Kessler? You'd assume it'd be the latter. And I think they need to add another guard because you can have kind of shuffle Bryce Sensabaugh, Hendricks, Jordan Clarkson, all those guys in kind of the forward minutes next year. And they could go forward here per se, but I'm going to opt for Isaiah Collier because I do think he could be a better playmaker than Keontae George and can kind of push Keontae George off ball and let him kind of go into that combo guard role that I think he excelled at times in the year. I think he had a lot on his shoulders as being like the lead distributor for this team. And maybe he can keep developing, but I think having Collier in there could be a nice safety blanket, and there could be some really fun 2-man lineups with George playing off of Collier. So I'm going to go Collier here at number 9 to Utah.
I think Isaiah Collier, who I described as a running back from the waist down, literally, because he's just built like a
bowling ball.
The bowling ball. I love Isaiah Collier, man. I think he's kind of underrated too in this draft as well. And I think if you look at him pre-injury, I honestly can't recall off the top of my head when the injury happened. He's very weird in this way where most guys, I think Cody is an example of this, where I think the injury kind of like hurts them in their draft stock. Isaiah Collier getting injured helped him in 2 ways. One, it kind of forced him to come back. Like he could have been one of those guys where, all right, I'm just going to stay out. USC's pretty bad, rest up, get ready for the draft. His draft stock was so low before he got injured because he was genuinely not good to start out the season for USC, just not processing defense as well, turning the ball over like crazy, being an inefficient shooter. And he comes back, and I think you could really tell he was in the film room and tried to fix some of his problems. The turnovers dropped. The jumper looked way better. He was more efficient, and he's a ridiculous finisher at the rim, especially if you let him get off of 2 feet with that like bowling ball frame that Matt described. So I'm a fan of Isaiah Collier. I'm glad that you took him inside the top 10 here. Atlanta, I think this pick is pretty easy for me as well. I'm going to take Cody Williams, a guy that I think if you can ignore the injury stuff, I think you still wind up seeing a top 6 player in this draft class. It's kind of hard not to like look for comparisons between him and his brother Jalen Williams' game. But I mean, I think Cody is a good enough NBA athlete. I like his frame. I obviously love the defense, especially pre-injury. I'm going to buy into his offensive upside here, and I'm going to take Cody Williams. Don't really know what we're going to do in the long term with our backcourt situation. If I'm Atlanta, got to figure that out this summer from a team building perspective. But essentially now, Matt, we could go into this offseason with Trey or DeJounte plus Cody Williams plus Jalen Johnson, and now we're really rolling. You have Jalen Johnson, Cody Williams as their front court. That's really intriguing to me.
For sure. And I think Williams is going to be a pretty plus defender right away. Like good size, good, I think, intangibles right there. He's like lanky. I think he'll be fine defensively. And I think like with having Trae Young as his point guard facilitating, and he's going to be able to cut, slash around Trae Young with a solid screen setter and Onyeka Okongwu, that could be a perfect fit for him. And I love that pick. I was actually going to mock him to Chicago if you didn't go him there, but I'm glad you did, because he, I think, should be like in that kind of 10-ish range. Chicago at 11 is such a weird team. I have no idea what direction they're going in. Like, I would not be surprised if they went Dalton Connect, they re-signed DeMar DeRozan, and they run this team back. It seems like that's what the organization wants to do. But I'm going to do what I think they should do. I'm honestly okay if they re-sign DeRozan to like a 1 to 2 year deal, and then you could still think about what you want to do with him long term. I have no idea what's going on with Zach LaVine. I don't want them to take a guard here, and I'm a big fan of Jared McCain. Yeah, I don't think they should take a guard here that's just going to get buried in the depth chart unless they actually move a ton of pieces this offseason. But you have Ayo, you have Kobe. Who knows if Lonzo Ball is going to even get minutes next year as well. And then obviously you throw Caruso and Carter and LaVine coming back in the fold. So I'm going to go Jacoby Walter. I think he's the highest upside out of the guys in this range. I'm a big Tyler Smith fan, but I think this could be a little high for Tyler Smith. I don't know. Like, every mock I'm seeing is still like Tyler Smith in the late teens. So I don't want to kind of just push my agenda there and have him go 11. So I think Walter is going to be like up and down like his rookie year. He's going to take some bad shots. He's going to be inefficient at times, but I think he's got good defensive potential. What they need on the perimeter, they need to get more athletic. No more Torrey Craig minutes. I think he's more athletic out of the gate than like Dalen Terry was coming out of Arizona, and he can provide them some good length and versatility and someone that could run the floor. And I think he'd actually be a plus 3-point shooter in his rookie season. I just don't know if I don't think I like Filipowski or Misi here as well, because I think they could go big man, but I just don't like any of those guys with Klingon off the board.
Yeah, I am a little bit lower on Jacoby Walter, but I do like. I feel like I say that, and then every time I actually talk about Jacoby Walter, I feel like I like him more just based off talking about him. Yeah, I think it's just saying Kevin O'Connor's first like big board or something, and it had Jacoby Walter's pro comp as Chris Middleton. I'm like, okay, hold the hell up. No.
So would you like Connect here? If you were like making the pick, like somebody more NBA ready as like a forward specifically, or would you, if you're going upside, would you go like Tijon, like Salon here, or I don't know, who would you go here? I
think if I'm Chicago, my intention is to fully run it back. The Don't Connect is probably where I would go with there, but I do like the Jacoby Walter pick. Yeah, again, I feel like I talk myself into him every time I talk about him, even though like I think on my board he's like 17 right now. Okay, so but still, I do like him. And speaking of T-Don, I'm going to take T-Don here for OKC, and maybe that's I've seen a couple of mocks that have had them take Yves Missy or like Kel'el Ware. I think it would have been fun to take Cody if Atlanta didn't take him at 10. I'm going to take T-Don. This feels like an OKC pick, 6'10". Again, maybe you want to prioritize getting another big to add next to Chet, but I can't help but think about the 3-and-D upside, the athlete that T-Don can be, and I'm just going to take that. I'm going to take the upside pick, if you will. I'm going to take him at 12, and there is a big faller on our board right now. Are you taking him with the Kings, Matt?
Oh man. I didn't have him penciled in, but I'm kind of thinking about it. But I wonder if he's going to be kind of redundant. I don't know. For Sacramento, man, I'm actually not. I think he's going to fall maybe to Portland here. I'm going to go with Jared McCain here. I'm going to offer Jared McCain 13 to Sacramento.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think like if they're going to get priced out of Malik Monk, they need off the ball guard play. And McCain, I think, is right up there with Rob Dillingham as the best shooter in this class, and up there with Reed Shepherd as well. Yep. And I think he's not going to be as good as Malik Monk, because Malik Monk was really good this year away. But I think he's someone that can work off ball, can pass a little bit, but can be a big time 3-point shooter for them, and is not scared of the big moment. Had some great tournament games as well. And I know like Connect could be interesting here, but I wonder what their goal is. But they do need to overhaul this bench. Now, maybe in a perfect world, bring back Monk, draft Connect, but I think they're going to lose Monk this offseason. So that's why I'm going to go with McCain.
All right. I love Jared McCain. He's easily one of my favorite players in this draft. I'm going to double dip with the Portland Trailblazers, and I'm going to take Zach Ruchesay. This is another like no brainer at this point. Just take the upside here at 14. Very late lottery, obviously, or last pick of the lottery. Just take the upside. I think his struggles have really kind of affected his draft stock, and I think if you just buy into the idea of the player, let him develop in a situation where there is absolutely no pressure whatsoever, especially day one right at the gate, because Scoot's still developing. We just drafted Ron Holland. We have a bunch of young pieces. You have Shane Sharp still. I mean, you do have Anthony Simons, who's on a bigger contract. Jeremy Grant's on a bigger contract. DeAndre Ayton. But from an organization standpoint, we are not ready to win whatsoever. I like this spot a lot, we should say.
Dude, I don't know why. I just kind of forgot about him.
That's what I was talking about. You said Dalton Connect. I was
is he talking about Dalton Connect? Oh my God. I guess this is like a Cam Whitmore situation. He just falls to 14 here. And they end up with they're gonna.
I know you're lower on Reese, say. Well, I was like, dang.
Okay. Honestly, like going back to this, I probably would have had him going to Chicago. That's on me. That's why I kind of like doing these collab mock drafts, because I guess in my mind I probably thought, all right, I probably had him go earlier, and we haven't done that yet. Wow. Okay. That's honestly love this for Portland. I don't think he falls this low unless he just bombs the workouts. But hey, you never know. The draft is unpredictable. Wow, I kind of love that for Portland now. Wow, I can't believe that went over my head. When you said Reese Shea, my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my God. All right, so we got
really quick, just to roll through the lottery. Alex Sarr goes 1 to Charlotte, Ron Holland 2 to Portland, Nikola Topic to 3 to Washington, Reed Shepard 4 to Houston, Stephon Castle 5 to Detroit, Rob Dillingham and Maz Buzelis to the Spurs at 6 and 7, Donovan Clingan at 8 to the Grizzlies, Isaiah Collier at 9 to the Jazz, Cody Williams at 10 to the Atlanta Hawks, Jacoby Walter at 11 to the Bulls, Tidon Saloon to the Oklahoma City Thunder at 12, Jeremy McCain at 13 to the Kings, and Zach Ricochet at 14 to the Blazers.
Okay. Yeah, just hearing Ricochet 14, so kind of crazy. So I'm going to go with Dalton Connect here at 15. I have no idea what Miami's team is going to look like next offseason. Caleb Martin has a player option that he could opt out of at test free agency. And Connect fits like the Jaime Jaquez mold from last year. And I think he can play up a little bit. I think they can roll out some lineups with Connect. I don't think he's going to be a great defender, but I think he can hold his own at the 3 or the 4 with Jimmy and Bam out there. And he's somebody that's an elite shooter right away. And I think they need to draft somebody NBA ready if their clock is ticking with Jimmy. So I think going that route is probably best suited. So Connect going 15 to the Heat.
16, the Orlando Magic are up. If I'm the Magic, I'm really bummed out that Jeremy McCain went 13. I feel like this is one of the more perfect landing spots for Orlando would have been Jeremy McCain. So now looking at the board and kind of scrambling if I'm Orlando. Actually, who do I go with here? And this might be high, especially for me, even though I guess I am kind of lower on him. I'm going to take Devin Carter. For Orlando. Look, I think if we want to talk day-ready guys that are going to help their team immediately, I do like Devin Carter a lot. I think his ability to create, his ability to defend is going to be something that Orlando can utilize right away. So I'm going to take Devin Carter here at 16 to the Orlando Magic. If you told me a month ago that me personally would have taken Devin Carter in the top 20, I would have called you nuts, but here we are today. So look at that.
Yeah, I love the Carter to Miami fit, and I think if Connect wasn't on the board, I was definitely going to take him there, and he's, I think, going to be a plus shooter right away, and that's definitely what they need. I'm going to opt for upside here at 17 with Toronto. This is their only first-round pick. They're still in a fine situation. Like, it's not the end of the world losing out on, like, a Montes Buzelis, but this team, I think, is going to still be probably below average as an overall roster next year. I'm going to go Tyler Smith here out of the G League Ignite. They need more size inside for sure. Moving on from Anunoby and Siakam this past season, Jakob Poeltl, I think, is a fine center, but is not like a long-term play. And I think Tyler Smith can space the floor. He can defend. He can dribble. And I think that's what you want in a prototypical, like, modern-day big man. And I think he'd play very well alongside Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes going forward.
You said Tyler Smith, right?
Yeah, Tyler Smith.
Okay. All right, Tyler Smith at 17 to the Raptors. So now the Lakers are on the clock here at 18. I actually think this should have been flipped, but regardless, Lakers on the clock at 18. And I am kind of buying in more to the idea of the player right now. I still have some more film I actually have to finish on him, but I'm going to go Khalil Ware because I'm going to buy into the idea of him and Anthony Davis together in the long term of, okay, you have 2 7-footers in your front court. That one of them, I think, can space the floor and knock down threes and also be a good weak side rim protector and shot blocker for you. Let AD or and vice versa, honestly, defensively. I am, as a Laker fan, trying to create what they should have done 2 years ago. And with the Miles Turner AD fit, and I'm trying to create that here by just taking Khalil Ware here at 18. There are still some question marks, definitely with the motor and some other things that are just about him as a player. But I'm going to take the upside. I'm going to take the idea of Kel'el Ware here at 18 for the Lakers.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect fit for him as well. Just going into the Lakers environment, like playing under LeBron James has to be like phenomenal for a young player. And then you hope like you're basically getting a rookie season from Jalen Hood-Schifino again next year. So like you hope it's like you hope basically this youth can kind of provide something as a spark plug for this Lakers team that's currently in limbo. As like a Lakers fan yourself, like are you optimistic about this team's, I guess, 2025 season if LeBron is coming back? Like do you think title hopes are realistic, and is it with like this current core?
I don't know.
I
don't know. It's tough because like I see all the time on like my timeline, people are saying, well, you know, you watch this, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Denver series, and how can you not think they need size? Okay, cool. You get size and you trade your draft compensation to go get size. Then when Bron does leave, you're kind of stuck stranded. Or if you go out to get third star, whether it's Trey or Donovan Mitchell or whatever, okay, cool, you don't have size, but at least you have something to build towards post LeBron. So that's kind of the biggest thing I'm like dealing with is where, okay, I don't think they can really play around. And I think they're going to have to pick. Do we want to still try to compete now and maybe go get Trey or like a Donovan Mitchell that can help us win now? But you're sacrificing some size and some depth. But in the long term, I think it could really pan out for you. Or do you just say, nope, we're going to get some more size, some guys that can actually defend, and put them next to Bron and AD and try to just win with it being Bron and AD as the main dudes. Again, my also counterpoint to that would be Bron's almost 40. So that's not really like an option at this point. So.
I know. Do you know if the Lakers have their mid-level exception this offseason? Like, can they go the full mid-level?
I think they could, but it's going to be so hard to get to it that like it's not even really an option in my mind.
Yeah. Because I'm like looking at size, and I don't know if the Knicks are gonna be able to keep him, but I feel like Hardenstein could be a good fit. Just I don't know if like
I wore a Hardenstein 2 years ago.
You did? Oh my god, yeah, that would be perfect. Right? Playing alongside AD. So yeah, my bet if the Raptors and the Pelicans were swapped there. If the
no, it's fine. It's not true. I think it's Fanspo, but it's all good.
Sounds good. So we got Philly at 19. They're a team that I think could go like they could go upside here, but I think they're a team that's going to run it back with Embiid and Maxey as their top two. I don't really think they get a big name this offseason like a Paul George. I think they're going to try to use their cap space on 3 to 4 long, athletic shooters and defenders, and like maybe even the Kelly Oubres of the world that they had play well for them in the playoffs. So I'm going to go with Tristan da Silva here out of Colorado. This is one of my favorite fits. I think him going to like any of these like fringe maybe conference finals teams, like if he ends up in Cleveland, he ends up in Philly, even if he ends up in like an Orlando, but can kind of do a little bit of everything, can shoot, can pass, can dribble, can defend, not at an elite level at some of these aspects, but I think at a good enough one where he could be a very impactful rookie right away.
I like that bit a lot. And Cleveland is now back on the clock. And for Cleveland here at 20, I'm trying to look at the roster really, really fast. Do you go back up big, or do we go more upside? And I don't even know. I don't even think this is really more upside. I think I'm just going to take the like day one ready. This might be a reach, but I'm going to take Kevin McCullough for the Cavs here at 20. A guy that I think that could come in day one and be a guy that's going to defend, that has the ability to score and create. And this season at Kansas, he has some injury concerns, but this season at Kansas, the 3-point shot really came around. And I'm going to put that along this team with Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland. He could be a potential 3 option in that starting 5 long term. So I'm going to go Kevin McCullough there at 20 for the Cavs.
I like that a ton. I think so. There's a couple of ways I can go with New Orleans here back on the clock. So this would be their first pick because they're going to let the Lakers keep the 18th pick. So I think I like I'm going to go big man here with Valanciunas being a free agent. I don't know if like Nance is also like in their long-term goals. They could move Brandon Ingram this offseason. I'm going to go with Yves out of Baylor. I like him a little bit more than Filipowski, not like right away, but I think there's a ton of question marks with Filipowski's defense. I think he's going to get kind of toyed with out there in his rookie season in the pick and roll. I think he's not slow enough. I worry about his decision-making. And I think Yves is an extremely raw prospect, but I think someone that's super athletic, can run to the rim. I think needs an upgraded point guard to help set him up. But hey, maybe that's Zion Williamson. And there could be some physical Zion Williamson, Misi two-man game that you have just two athletic freaks going at each other in the half court. That's going to be really tough to stop with their size and their strength. So I'm going to go Misi there to the Pelicans at 21.
All right, 22 here for the Milwaukee Bucks. And this is a pick that I just love a lot. And I got some flack for it in my first mock draft release on the channel. I'm going to do it again. I don't care. I'm going to take Ryan Dunn for the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, their point of attack defense is some of the worst in the NBA. You had Dame and freaking Malik Beasley. You can insert him, not even the starting five, but just in lineups where as long as you have proper floor spacing, you can scheme around having one bad shooter on the floor. But easily, okay, I don't want to say easily because respect Stephon Castle, but probably the best on-ball perimeter defender in this draft class. And I don't even think that's doing him justice, man. Just the way he impacts the game from the defensive side of the floor in general is incredible. Add that next to Giannis on this team. Sure, the offense is crap, but like, bro, worst case scenario, you get Matisse Thybulle. Best case scenario, you get like a Herb Jones if the shot does eventually develop. So I'm going to go Ryan Dunn here for the Milwaukee Bucks at 22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. He's one of the safer prospects in this draft because of his defense. And who cares if he ends up as Matisse Thybulle? There were some good Matisse Thybulle years in there, and like Matisse Thybulle, and even like Scotty Barnes wasn't a good shooter at Florida State. Now Scotty Barnes, eventually, he had the form, he took him, the confidence, Dunn lacks that sometimes. But these guys can be poor shooters and eventually develop it. And even if he shoots his defense is so good that if he shoots 30% from three on limited attempts, he's still a super valuable player because of his defensive upside. And Milwaukee needs that. So that's a great pick there. Phoenix at 23. Oh, man. I'm tempted for one guy. I'm tempted, but I'm not going to do it. I think I'm actually going to go with Tyler Kolek here. This team, as much as I like Devin Booker kind of orchestrating this offense, and I think he did a fine job and is kind of a new role for him. I think they need to bump everybody down, and they need to open up the floor with Kevin Durant, possibly even running. It's tough because you want Kevin Durant to space the floor, and Yusuf Nurkic can kind of limit that at times. But I think adding Kolek in there to be the facilitator to Bradley Beal and Booker and Durant right away, that's someone that is an upperclassman at Marquette. He's going to be 23 years old. He's NBA ready. I'm going to go Kolek there at 23 to the Suns.
I absolutely loved Kolek. One of my favorite point guards in this class. The way he processes the game from a playmaking standpoint is incredible to watch. The jumper, he has some Goran Dragic to me when I watched this tape. So yeah, that is absolutely who I would have went with for the for the Suns at 23 if you didn't go with them. Now I have the pressure. The Knicks have back-to-back picks. I have the pressure of picking for Matt's Knicks here, who by the way are having an incredible playoff run. And shout out to Jalen Brunson, who makes me look like an idiot by the day.
Did you not like the signing?
I love the signing, but
okay.
There's a tweet from me last summer saying that some of the Brunson hype has gone too far, referring to him and Halliburton. And I'm like, yeah. And somebody added me again yesterday, I think, oh, this is a real dumb tweet. I'm like, all right, thanks.
Don't worry. I remember I hated the Gobert trade midway through last year, which I think was justifiable. And I get tweet at it every day, adding it if my T-Wolves fan just tell me. So we all have those tweets for sure.
Oh man. So the Knicks here at 24 are a tough team to draft for because obviously you don't go back up guard because I think Deuce McBride's been awesome. Cincinnati legend. Shout out Deuce. DiVincenzo's awesome. Unless maybe you want to go back up two. Do you have Alec? No. Yeah. Do you go back up two? All right. Hear me out. I guess technically I am lower on him, but I'm just thinking fit. Unless you want to go a Deron Holmes here at 24, I'm going to go with Jalen Tyson, I think, from California.
The way you were smiling, I thought you were going to go with somebody completely different.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if he's going to get drafted. I'll say it at the end if he doesn't.
I'm going to go Jalen Tyson.
Okay.
I like the offense. I think he's a guy that can create his own shot. And I think, especially if he's playing alongside Brunson, where Brunson collapses the defense and kicks out to Tyson. Tyson gets to attack a closeout, which opens up his connected playmaking ability. which is something that is really, really fun about him. I think this could be a really ideal situation where he's not going to be asked to be on ball a ton, but if he does get on ball reps, he can succeed in them. So I'm going to go Jalen Tyson. I hope that's a justifiable pick. Knicks fans and Matt, don't kill me. Matt, where are you going with here for the Knicks' second pick?
No, I like this a ton because I think I was going to look at potentially wing, but I'm like, do I want to double up on wing? But like, I assume some of these guys are obviously not going to be back. Hartenstein's a free agent. And I assume also the Knicks, both of these guys are not going to play right away. So I think with Tyson being more NBA ready, I'm going to take somebody that's not as NBA ready, but I think he'd be good in a few years from now that they could develop. And I'm going to go with Keyshawn George here out of Miami.
That's the other guy I was thinking about.
I think like Tibbs would love his defensive ability. And I think even like what they've done with like Miles McBride and some other guys over the years, that they're going to like flirt with minutes in their rookie year, and hopefully he could just ramp up over time, like Emmanuel Quickly was. And I think Quickly had his defensive pros at Kentucky, but I don't think was polished at all. And molding under Tibbs and developing over years could be great. And I think George, perfect 3-and-D guy. That's what they need to surround against Brunson. And I think with Tyson, who I like that pick as well, going to the Knicks at 24 because they need some scoring off the bench. I'm going to go with George here. A little bit more upside, but definitely not as NBA ready as Tyson. So I think you get kind of best of both worlds there.
Keyshawn George, very similarly to like Kel'el Ware, is one of the lone bright sides from two pretty bad situations this season.
For sure.
Like, Miami was really rough. they were awful. But he was one of the lone bright sides to watch at Miami. So now we're back on the clock with the Washington Wizards. Their second pick in the first round. So Nikola Topic went third overall. So we already had our guard of the future, because if we didn't go Topic at 3, I would have really thought about Bub Carrington from Pittsburgh here at 26. I'm going back and forth between like a DeRon Holmes here or a Zach Edey and just saying, screw it, let's just go with it. And I think I'm just going to say, screw it, let's go with it. And like, just take Zach Edey.
I like it. I would have done that too.
If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I'm just going to take Edey. And best case scenario, you get a potential like unstoppable dude next to your now, star of the team and Nikola Topic. So we're going to take the upside here as well with Zach Edey.
Yeah, because I was like looking at the rest of the teams that I had, and I'm like, I don't think I'm taking Zach Edey to Minnesota, and I don't think I'm taking Zach Edey to Utah. So I was wondering if he was going to go in the first round in this mock for us. Minnesota here at 27. They're a team that could also look at point guard here with Conley just getting older. Monty Morris might not be back next year. But, I mean, I do like KJ Simpson a ton out of Colorado, and this would be maybe the higher end for him. But I think Terrence Shannon is still someone that can help them right away next year and just kind of add to it. I think, like, actually Terrence Shannon had his defensive upside this year at Illinois. Like, he played well. He was active on the ball and off the ball, and he's 6'5". Well, he's 6'6" even, and he's got good strength. And I think he's going to move, like, he can move laterally, and you throw him with, like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jalen McDaniels, who can help him out a ton. And obviously, you have Rudy Gobert, who just won Depoy anchoring that paint. I think Shannon, even if there's defensive question marks, will be fine, and they could use some offense off the bench for sure, because like it's only so much Naz Reid can do in that second unit, and I think adding Shannon can only be beneficial to them next year.
I like that pick for Minnesota. So we are now back up with the Denver Nuggets, who another popular pick of mine, and I'm kind of mad that he's not here, is like Tyler Kolek for Tyler Kolek for Denver. Denver, you know what? I think I'm just going to go upside pick here. And I think I am going to go with one of the better shooters right now, even though he does have a lot more development to go, so he's not going to need to play right away. I'm going to go Johnny Furphy. I'm going to go Johnny Furphy here for Denver here at 29. Take the upside on the shooter. I think for Johnny Furphy's long-term upside, I really need him to be able to be more of a movement shooter or develop something along those lines. His shooting ability right now is solely like more in a spot-up role, which I think tampers his like day one readiness. But I'm going to take the upside. He's a long wing. And yeah, get him in here for the defending champs, who might get out in the second round to Minnesota. But well, who knows?
I like that pick. I think he should definitely be a first rounder just because of the potential he has. And that's a great fit for him in Denver. Utah 29, I just think it's good value here. I mean, I don't really love them going another big man. He could play the 4, he could play the 5, but at least he could space the 4 at the end of the day. So maybe he could play alongside. He could play alongside Kessler. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm going to go Kyle Filipowski here because I'm like, why not? They were able to keep their first round pick that we had them go Isaiah Collier before. And I think they're good on wings right now, depending on what they end up doing with Lowry Markkanen. But I think at least Filipowski can space the floor a little bit and could play alongside some of their other guys, and he can handle the ball well for somebody of his size. Maybe just be like an offensive hub in the post for that second unit. So I'm going to go Filipowski here. I think it's just a value play at this point.
All right, and at 30 here for me, for the Boston Celtics, the best team in the Eastern Conference record-wise this season, I'm going to go Bobby Klintman here at 30, a guy that I probably would have went, I think I did mock him in the first round last season. He declines to enter last year's draft and, declares to this year. I was like, okay, you're right around the same range as you were last season. I think a guy that is going to be a plus defender pretty early on in his NBA career, has some upside, fill out some more of the depth on that team. Not really considering guard. I think Boston feels good about where they're at with Pam Pritchard and Derek White, Drew Holiday, obviously. So I'm just going to take Bobby Klintman and pair him up as like a backup rather for like a Jaylen Brown or a Jason Tatum that can play the 3 and the 4 here.
Yeah, I like that pick.
All right. So first round mock draft is over with. So not going to run through them all here. I'm just going to put the graphic up on the screen here for you guys to take a look at. Matt, any like big takeaways from our mock draft here?
Yeah, I think obviously having Reese Shea fall to 14 has to be one, but I like it. Hey, it's unpredictable, and I think that's how like these drafts can go. And there's so much variance with some of these international wings. Like I feel like Reese Shea can go 1. He could go like back end of the top 10. Into the teens, and like same with Salon, same with Klintman and some of these guys. But I think Reese Shea, and then maybe I'm trying to think of like maybe a guy we didn't have go here in the first round that maybe gets a little bit more looks. Maybe it's Bob Carrington. Maybe do a team that wants a point guard in the late 20s. I would say, but yeah, I think I like most of these picks, and I think this would be exciting if it happens for sure. I do wonder like Zach Edey, like where he's going to go. I question it every day.
Yeah. I think Zach Edey has arguably some of the most variance out of any prospect in this draft class, where if you're really in love with him and you need a big, like he could go right around the end of the lottery to like the mid-teens. And if you're just like, nope, we just don't see the fit whatsoever, I don't think it's going to be an NBA player, he could slip to 40. Like that's a wide gap of like possibilities for Zach Edey. He's definitely a guy that absolutely needs to crush the draft workouts. Before we leave, I just want to ask 2 questions that will get you out of here, Matt. Once again, appreciate you hopping on. If you had to give your top 3, like my guys in this draft class, who would that be?
I like this a lot because it's not like your top 3 guys in this class. It's just like you guys like more than the consensus. And like at the end of the day, you're going to ride with them. Okay, so my first one is Ron Holland. I think I'm going to kind of go into like different tiers here. My first guy is definitely Ron Holland. I think at the end of the day, his athleticism, his defensive ability right now, and what he did against good talent in the G League this year, I think is worth a top 3 pick in this draft. And I think with the way the NBA is going, and we looked at even just the Thompson twins last year, I think the upside is immense and what he could be defensively for a team like Detroit or Charlotte or Portland or Washington that was just so bad defensively last year. I would say like my middle of the pack guy, I'm going to go with Jared McCain. I guess I'm going to go with 2 middle of the pack guys here, but I love Jared McCain. I think his shooting is elite out of the gate. And I think like he's a super safe prospect, can go on ball, off ball with his shooting spot up. I think he's someone that has high basketball IQ for somebody coming out of Duke and showed that last year. And I think you can unlock so much more from him because I think he was kind of overshadowed by some of like their older guards there. And at least just like Tyrese Proctor and Jeremy Roach, and then Tyler Smith a ton. So I liked him in Holland, watching a lot of G League Ignite this year because I was so curious to see how these prospects were going to look. And I think Smith can do it all in this modern day league. For somebody that's 6'11", he can defend. Kind of on the perimeter, not maybe elite out there, but I think his rim protection is fine. I think he's someone that has good basketball IQ, good decision making, can work the pick and roll, and pick and pop as well. And I think he's going to be a good shooter, good rim protector, and good facilitator for somebody at 6'11". I would definitely take him in the top 15 if I was a GM here. Those are my guys.
Yeah. So if I had to go with mine, I would go with Jeremy Kane. I'm so glad you brought up the fact that like there is some untapped potential there because of his situation at Duke with him not getting a bunch of on-ball touches because of their experienced guards. I think another thing that doesn't get talked about enough is he's a legitimately really good finisher at the rim that doesn't get touched on a bunch, 60% plus finisher at the rim. That's going to be an adequate defender. I don't think he's going to get, like any like all defense stuff like that or be a great defender or anything like that. But I do think he's at least like terms of upside, like going to be an above average defender. He competes. He's a really smart player. And I think that also does help him a lot defensively. Tyler Collect, I mean, a guy that if you didn't take him at 23 with the Suns, I would have taken him at for sure in the first round. I love his game. I just think he's the guy that can orchestrate an offense nicely, is able to hit the three ball, get to the rim. And again, like I say, he has some Goran Dragic to me. I'm going to take his teammate, Oso Digiaro. I hope I didn't botch his last name, but I think he's kind of a, the modern day small ball 5 big that can be switchy on the perimeter, has some playmaking ability, good finisher around the basket as well. Had a lot of great 2-man game action with Tyler Collect. So I'm going to go with those 3. Try to stray a little bit more from your list, even though, but I just love Jerry McCain too much. I had to get him on.
I know. And I think Oso Digiaro, he reminds me a ton of like Trace Jackson Davis in that mold and what he was at Indiana last year.
That's a good one.
I think they're both 6'9", and I think they played similar at their levels. And I like him a ton too. I would take him early in the second for sure. And McCain I don't think I'm not a huge comp guy because like it's always tough and like you're usually wrong at the end of the day with a lot of them. But yeah, Jared McCain reminds me a lot of like Kentucky Emmanuel Quickley a ton, just his off ball play. And I think Quickley was a little bit more active defensively, but I think McCain, was better in college offensively, and I think he'd be a better offensive player than Quickley was, and as a passer as well in the NBA. Yeah. That's on. Yeah.
All right, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's winning the NBA championship?
Oh man. All right. It's tough because Denver's down 2-0. You would have asked me before the series. I was going to go with Denver. I predicted
Denver's been my pick. They've been my pick all year.
Oh, man. I think the popular team right now would be Minnesota, but I think just these teams are going to beat each other up in the West. I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to take Boston. I think they're going to beat Cleveland. I predicted them to beat in 5, like before the playoffs. I think they'll beat, if it's Indiana, if it's New York. I mean, just the perimeter defense that they have, and hopefully they get Kristaps back healthy. I think the guys in the West are going to beat each other up. I'm trying to think. I don't know, like if Minnesota, like, I don't know. I think like nobody talks about OKC. Like people aren't talking about OKC enough because they're not as like flashy. At least with like Luka, they did an easy sweep. And I wouldn't be surprised if they beat like Dallas, like convincingly. So I'm super excited for that series. I'm going to go with Boston. It's kind of boring. I don't know if did you switch up on Denver? I think I'm being kind of lame, and I'm going off Denver now that they're down 2-0.
I picked Denver before the playoffs. I also said heading into the series, I said whoever wins the series is going to win it all. So I'm going to stick with that logic at least and say Minnesota, I guess. But I feel relatively confident. I do think whoever comes out of the West is going to win it though. Especially if it's like OKC or Minnesota. I think OKC, like you said, doesn't get enough credit for how good they are as a team. And that Dallas OKC series is going to be so fun. I hope it's a long one. Yeah, and Boston's really, really good. And that Boston, a potential Boston New York series is going to be fun and very stressful for you, obviously.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I just hope, I don't know, at the end of the day, I'm like, just sweep us, put me out early, just don't get me roped in. But the Knicks win one of the 2 in Boston. If they even beat Indiana, I'm gonna be so stressed out in that series. But it'll be cool because I think if they lose, like we're gonna see a new champion again, and like Tatum can get his first ring, Shea, Luka, and like one of these guys gonna go into a different tier as a player we look at if Denver does lose, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you hopping on with us. This was a ton of fun. And we got to do this again at some point because I really did appreciate having you on, man. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, definitely, Sean, for sure. Maybe we could do another one once the lottery is set leading up to the draft, because this was a good time. Thanks for having me again.
This was fun. Absolutely. Guys, make sure you guys go check out all of Matt's work. I'll make sure I plug that in the description down below. And until next, everybody, see ya, stay safe, and peace out.